Hey everyone, this is Mr. Everything. Today I have a review of this power pack battery extension for your PS4 controller. There's really not much to show. I just typed in PS4 external battery. Go ahead and see it's made in Hong Kong. But again, for the price, this was only like, I think $11 on eBay. I'm assuming the brand is Surge. I've never heard of them. If you look up on the eBay seller's website, they do have other ones. Other products, I should say. There's really nothing to show on that. Just give you a second to, in case, because these are very, very vague instructions. I guess it comes with a warranty, but I just try and buy it from sellers on eBay that'll refund you through eBay. It's easier. So one thing I really like is this texture. It's pretty close. It's not exact, but it kind of mimics texture on the PS4 controller, the back. You can see you have your micro USB, and then you have your micro USB input button. That means apparently that it's charging. I believe when it doesn't follow the instructions, and that's one thing I've noticed with cheap Chinese products. It's kind of a vague thing that kind of applies to multiple products, and then they're not always the same. You can see the light went out. I believe that's because it's not plugged into the controller, because when it's in the controller it seems to stay on longer. Maybe it has an auto shut off feature. Again, the instructions don't tell you that, so you kind of have to just experiment with it and try and figure it out. When you plug, you can just charge this the way it is. The biggest thing about this that I like is you get this 10-foot long braided micro USB cable. It's very nice quality. So I wasn't really impressed with this, but for $10, the 10-foot cable is kind of worth that almost. So it's not worth taking this back. So you can just plug this in directly into the PS4. And when it's charging, it blinks, and then when it's fully charged, it'll turn blue. It says first time charged for 3 or 4 hours, but it turned blue in like a couple minutes. I'm assuming maybe it was fully charged, so I'll run it dead. And without further ado, I will just go ahead and install it on here. I have a modded out controller. I just got a PS4, and I'm so used to the Xbox controller, I had to make it feel thicker and bigger. So I might do a video on what I didn't like about it and how I tried to improve it if anyone is interested. So you can see it just snaps on. I believe it's basically all just held on by this port. And if you do look, you can see these little tabs that just, I believe they just like slightly kind of lock in where these holes are, these indentations for the screws. So it kind of snaps in, but it's not, I like how it's not one of the ones that have the hook that come around the bottom. So it's real easy to take back off. The only problem I've noticed, like that, is if you're holding it, sometimes your fingers want to push it up, and I'll notice like it's not charging anymore because it lifts off, so you gotta kind of. And another thing is with the standard triggers, again, I find them way too short compared to the Xbox controller. My finger was hitting this a little bit, so if these extended ones, you can see they don't touch, but when they were back here, you could still, you have the full range, but you would hit that. But again, if it being so easy to remove, I'm thinking it would make more sense to keep it off. Then when the controller, like you get the low notification, then put it on. There's no need to keep it on all the time unless you want to. So another thing, and I thought this thing didn't work at all, because when you turn your controller on, now my battery should die on this. I'm not sure if it'll, because last night I kept letting it die on purpose to see if this would even work. It's off, so if I press the charge button, so now it's telling me that this thing's giving power. Okay, so I still have everything hooked up. Turn the power on. It should be charging the controller. Then you go down here and you don't get the charge prompt, so it's not actually charging it. I thought it didn't work. What it turns out, from what I figured out, when this controller was completely dead and there was no battery left there and you keep hitting the button and it would just not even come on. It would only work when you turned this on, but then as soon as you took it off, it wouldn't work anymore. So I guess the principle is when it's hooked up and on, which sometimes it shuts back off, which is again very annoying. But when unless the controller just runs strictly off this battery, it doesn't actually charge this controller. Another feature it supposedly has is when you plug in, because you could have both of these plugged in. This is plugged into the controller and the USB is plugged into the pack. It says in the instructions that it charges the PS4 controller first, charges it full, then once it's fully charged, it then charges the pack. But I don't believe that's the case because again, I'm not getting a charging prompt. And this light is flashing, which is what it does when it charges. So again, I think the instructions aren't accurate. Again, there's been other videos on YouTube. No one tells you how these work at all. They just take it out of the box and tell you nothing. So I'm really hoping that this can kind of inform people, because I thought mine didn't work. It's just apparently the poor design or poor instructions that you kind of have to figure it out on your own. If I remove that and go straight into the cord, you can see there's the charging thing again. So now it is charging the controller, no battery pack used. So one of the things I noticed is just you have to keep looking down and making sure this light is on, because sometimes it'll shut off. You have to just keep pressing that button. There's no other function. It's just press it off, press it, turn it on, and then when you're charging it, it blinks, and then when it's fully charged, it stays a solid blue. That's all I can figure out from it, so that's basically all I can say. It is 1200 milliamp lithium ion. I haven't looked up what the milliamp hour is on the internal battery. It's probably about that. It says it will double the battery life, so I'm not sure on the specs on that, but if you look that up, it should be at least twice, maybe even more than what this holds, because it's a pretty big battery. But again, because it's so finicky, and you can see the light went off again, it's just really hard to figure out if it's worth it. But it does work, but it's kind of, again, there's no clear way to know how to use it. I think for $10 it's worth it just to have this nice long braided cable, because the stock PS4 cable was way too short and you really couldn't play and charge it at the same time. With this you can, so I would kind of recommend it just for that. If you can find a better brand, I think Nyko makes these packs, and Walmart has a chat pad that goes down here, and then it has an internal battery to charge this battery, or the internal battery in this as well. But it's all preference. It's okay. But you can look it up on eBay if you type in PS4 external battery, and then it's the one by Surge. So hopefully that informs you on this if you would want to get this. I do like the concept of an external battery for the PS4 controller. So thanks for watching, and you'll see me in the next one. Have a good one.